Raised beds that double your harvest, watering buckets you barely have to lift, and slugs shunned without a single chemical. These aren't just garden legends. They're the first breakthroughs in 7 gardening hacks seniors swear by. The truth is, for millions, back pain, pests, and heavy lifting threaten to turn gardening into a chore, robbing older growers of the one hobby proven to bolster health, independence, and joy. But you don't have to settle for small blooms and big aches, because 7 expert-backed shortcuts can transform your patch this week. Why does making these changes matter so much? And what's the real science behind easier, bigger harvests? Let's dig into the hacks even most beginners haven't tried. Raised beds aren't just a trend. They're the backbone of easy, pain-free gardening for seniors and beginners alike. Start with the right height. A bed around 30 inches tall lets you stand or sit comfortably, keeping knees and backs out of the equation. Beds wider than 4 feet make reaching the middle a stretch, so stick to 3 or 4 feet across if you want to avoid leaning. For single-side access, like along a fence or wall, aim for 18 to 30 inches wide. Edge boards at least 8 inches wide double as a sturdy seat or a place to rest tools. No more searching for a misplaced trowel. Cedar and redwood are the classics for good reason. They resist rot and hold up for years, but composite kits and even recycled plastic versions work just as well and need less upkeep. If you're building your own, a 4x8 foot bed hits the sweet spot for both cost and harvest. Long enough for rows of greens, short enough to assemble in an afternoon. Most beds can be built for under $200, including soil, and that first season's harvest often covers the whole investment. Extension studies show that a 4x8 raised bed filled with the right mix can yield 2 to 4 times more vegetables per square foot than a traditional ground plot, especially for lettuce, beans, and root crops. Charles Dowding, a leading voice in no-dig gardening, credits his method to a back injury that made digging impossible. Instead of turning soil, he layers cardboard to block weeds, then tops it with 3 to 4 inches of compost. The result? Fewer weeds, less bending, and crops that come in earlier and heavier. Dowding's ongoing trials show his no-dig beds not only save time, but also deliver up to 15% more produce, with weed maintenance dropping to as little as half an hour per month after the first year. University studies back this up. Earthworm numbers climb, soil stays loose, and water drains better, all without a shovel in sight. The real magic comes from the soil blend. 3 parts topsoil to 1 part compost creates a loose, rich mix that holds water without getting soggy and feeds young plants for weeks. This blend is light enough to move easily, especially if you use a wheeled cart and a long-handled shovel. Fill the bed to within 2 inches of the rim. Tamp gently and water until droplets slip from the drainage holes. With a bed at the right height, ergonomic tools, and Dowding's no-dig shortcut, gardening becomes less about aches and more about harvests. For most seniors, that's the difference between giving up and looking forward to every new season. Dragging hoses and hauling heavy watering cans can turn a promising garden into a chore. That's where moisture automation steps in. And for seniors, it's the difference between daily work and a weekly stroll. Joe Lampel, a champion of practical gardening, demonstrates how self-watering beds and mulch keep soil just right with almost no effort. The secret is in the reservoir, a hidden water compartment beneath the soil, holding 3 to 5 gallons per square foot. This isn't just a fancy upgrade. It's a low-tech trick that lets roots draw up water as they need it, using capillary action. The same principle that pulls water up a paper towel. Plants stay hydrated, but never waterlogged, and you only need to refill every 7 to 10 days, even in the middle of summer. Mulch takes the system even further. A 2-inch layer of straw, shredded leaves, or bark chips on top of the soil acts like a sun hat and a sponge. It slows evaporation by up to 70%, keeps roots cool, and blocks weeds before they start. The result? Less water lost to the air, fewer weeds to pull, and soil that feels like a wrung-out sponge even after a week of heat. Joe Lample's capillary demo shows how the reservoir and mulch work together. Water moves up from below, stays locked in by the mulch, and roots sip steadily instead of gulping and drying out. For most raised beds, you can build a reservoir with simple materials: PVC pipe, a mesh screen, and gravel. Or buy a kit with everything included. The key is making sure the reservoir holds enough water for your plant's needs. 3 to 5 gallons per square foot is the sweet spot. Overflow holes prevent flooding, and a filled tube at one corner makes topping up fast and easy. For container gardens, self-watering pots use the same principle. A 6-inch deep pot with a built-in reservoir keeps herbs and lettuce happy for a week or more without a drop from the watering can. This single change means fewer trips outside, less worry about heat waves, and more consistent harvests. Mulch and moisture automation take the guesswork out of watering. No more drooping leaves or cracked tomatoes from missed days. With the basics covered, you're free to focus on the fun parts: picking, tasting, and planning your next crop. And with less standing water on the surface, pests like slugs and fungus gnats have a harder time moving in. For seniors and beginners alike, moisture automation is the shortcut to a thriving, low-maintenance garden, one that runs almost on autopilot. Slugs can turn a promising patch of lettuce or spinach into lace overnight, but there's no need to reach for harsh chemicals or traps that put pets at risk. The most reliable defense is a layered approach. Think of it as building a fortress, not a single wall. Copper tape, for example, is often the first line of defense. It works by giving slugs a mild electric shock when they try to cross, but the trick is full coverage and keeping the tape clean. Linda Chalker-Scott, a professor and mythbuster in the gardening world, points out that copper's effectiveness can drop in wet weather or if gaps allow slugs to sneak through. Even the best tape won't stop every slug, especially the larger species that treat obstacles like a challenge. That's where beer traps come in. Sink a shallow dish, just deep enough to hold an inch of beer, at soil level near your most vulnerable crops. Slugs are drawn by the scent, tumble in, and can't get back out. Freshen the beer every 2 or 3 days, and you'll notice fewer telltale slime trails by morning. For a pet-safe option, iron phosphate pellets offer a backup. These break down harmlessly in the soil and are approved for organic gardens. Hand-picking at dusk, though not glamorous, can tip the balance if you're dealing with a real invasion. Just slip on gloves and collect any visible slugs into a lidded jar or bucket. Gardeners who combine these methods see the biggest payoff. Extension trials and field tests show that stacking barriers, Copper tape plus beer traps, with occasional hand picking, cuts leaf damage in half, or better for most leafy greens. While some online claims promise an 80% drop in slug damage, university studies find that realistic results land between 30 and 60%, depending on the slug species and how consistently you refresh your defenses. The main thing is regular upkeep. Check tape and for gaps, empty traps before they overflow, and reapply pellets after heavy rain. With these tactics in place, even a garden that started out as a slug buffet can bounce back. Leafy crops are the first to recover, and harvest confidence returns fast. Once slugs are under control, you're ready to grow upward, because the next big harvest often hangs just above ground level. When garden space is tight, or bending low is out of the question, the answer is to grow up, not out. Vertical gardening turns fences, walls, and even balcony railings into prime real estate for beans, tomatoes, peas, and cucumbers. A simple trellis, wood, wire, or even sturdy netting lets vining crops climb, keeping fruit and leaves off the ground and well within reach. This single change opens up more room for root crops and greens below, while the climbers head skyward. Nikki Jabor, a master of small space harvests, transformed her own patio into a vertical food factory using nothing more than a handful of trellises and a starter calendar pinned to the fridge. Her trick is to start peas indoors in late winter, then pop them outside as soon as the soil thaws, usually about 2 weeks before the last frost. By the time most gardeners are just sowing seeds, Nikki's vines are already grabbing the first rungs of the trellis. This jumpstart can mean an extra flush of pods before summer heat hits. Vertical supports do more than save space. They're a secret weapon against disease. When leaves and fruit are lifted into the air, sunlight and breeze reach every surface, drying off morning dew and rain. Plant pathologists agree. Good airflow means fewer fungal problems, especially powdery mildew and blight. University guides point out that trellised cucumbers and beans have noticeably fewer sick leaves, sometimes a third less, compared to those sprawling on the ground. Less mildew means less picking off yellowed leaves and more time enjoying the harvest. For most patios, a 6-foot-tall trellis is plenty. Use soft ties or old pantyhose to secure stems gently, and let gravity do the rest. Mix in a few small pots of bush beans, lettuce, or radishes at the base to maximize every inch. The result is a layered garden where every level pulls its weight, roots below, vines above, and a steady harvest at arm's reach. With a starter calendar to track sowing and transplant dates, even forgetful gardeners can keep crops coming all season. Next up, the secret to richer soil and bigger harvests without a single trip to the fertilizer aisle. Compost is the garden's secret engine, but nobody wants to fuss with a smelly heap or spend hours turning piles. The shortcut? A simple tumbler bin. Just load it, spin it, and let nature do the rest. Dr. Elaine Ingham, a soil microbiologist who's spent decades studying garden microbes, explains that compost isn't just about breaking down scraps. It's about feeding the billions of tiny helpers that turn dead leaves and carrot tops into a buffet for plant roots. Toss in kitchen scraps, coffee grounds, and a handful of dry leaves or shredded newspaper. Every few days, give the tumbler a spin. The closed design keeps pests out and speeds up the process. Finished compost in as little as 4 to 6 weeks during warm weather. the payoff is big. Adding even a thin layer of finished compost to beds or containers can cut your need for store-bought fertilizer by up to 70%. That means fewer heavy bags to carry and less worry about chemical runoff. The real magic happens underground. Compost fuels soil microbes, which in turn make nutrients available to plants all season long. According to Dr. Ingham, healthy soil biology is the reason why compost-fed gardens bounce back faster from stress and produce bigger, tastier crops with less work. With a tumbler routine, you close the nutrient loop, feeding your soil so it can feed your plants year after year. Flowers aren't just for show, they're the secret ingredient to a bigger harvest. Barbara Pleasant, a champion of companion planting, swears by mixing marigolds, nasturtiums, and lavender right in with the vegetables. These blooms do more than brighten the view. They pull in bees, butterflies, and hoverflies, turning every bed into a pollinator magnet. When pollinators show up in force, fruit and seed crops set better, and the numbers back it up. University field trials show that adding pollinator-friendly flowers can boost yields by as much as 25%, especially for beans, squash, and tomatoes. The best part is how little extra work it takes. Most of these flowers thrive on neglect, crowd out weeds, and even repel pests like aphids and whiteflies. Marigolds, for example, release a scent that sends soil nematodes packing, while nasturtiums draw away hungry insects from more delicate crops. Barbara's advice is simple. Tuck a few flowers at the ends of every row or in the corners of raised beds. Not only does this strategy fill the garden with color, it saves time on weeding and spraying. With a mix of vegetables and blooms, the garden becomes a living ecosystem. Pollinators do the heavy lifting, and harvests climb without any extra effort. Next, it's time to look at the tools that make pain-free weeding a reality. Weeding doesn't have to mean kneeling in the dirt or wrestling with stubborn roots. The right tools do most of the work for you. Long-handled hoes, loop weeders, and stand-up weed pullers let you clear a bed from a comfortable standing position. Look for tools with padded, wide grips and lightweight aluminum shafts. Together, they shave minutes off each task and spare your wrists and shoulders. Studies show that switching to ergonomic tools can cut weeding time by 60%, especially in raised beds or containers. Monty Don, a champion of gentle gardening, keeps a weekly checklist taped to his shed door. 10 minutes to water, harvest, and scan for weeds. Another 5 to top up mulch or remove yellow leaves. It's not about perfection, it's about rhythm. A simple kneeling bench with side handles turns ground-level chores into a seated job, and a grabber tool means you never have to stoop for stray stems. Color-coded tags and a lightweight bucket round out the kit, keeping everything in reach. With this routine, weeding becomes a quick habit, not a dreaded chore. Most seniors find that a regular, easy pace keeps gardens thriving and joints pain-free. As Monty likes to say, the best tool is the one you forget you're holding. With a few smart upgrades, tending your garden feels less like work and more like a daily walk in the park. Research shows that switching to waist-high raised beds can boost harvests by 2 to 4 times per square foot, while cutting physical strain dramatically. Throughout this documentary, we've seen how proven methods, like self-watering reservoirs, 3-to-1 soil blends, and ergonomic tools, reduce daily effort and make gardening accessible for seniors and beginners alike. Slug barriers and vertical trellises offer practical solutions to crop loss and space limits, while easy composting and pollinator-friendly planting close the loop for healthier yields. Yet some questions remain. Not every slug defense or mildew reduction claim is fully verified, and long-term studies on ergonomic impacts are limited. Still, the evidence is clear. Adopting these simple, science-backed hacks leads to bigger harvests and less work. As more gardeners embrace these strategies, the path toward low-effort, high-reward gardening is better documented than ever. The tools and techniques are here, backed by experts and research, ready to transform any small space into a thriving, manageable garden.